Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Today, my friends, I want to bring some people in that have really revolutionized Lifestyles Unlimited. With us today are two Florida ambassadors. We have Lisa Anderson, which is in the Jacksonville area. She's not in Jacksonville, but in the Jacksonville area. And then we have Josh Dickerson, which is more in the South Florida ambassador. And we're really happy to have them today. We're going to discuss some of the stuff they're doing so you guys can get an idea of how these ambassadors work and where they're at. So welcome, guys, to the show. Let's start with Lisa. Lisa, you've got quite a bit of activity in the Jacksonville area, but you also draw from the whole East Coast, don't you?
Yes. We typically have monthly meetups that are kind of local to Northeast Florida, but we have a new Southeast Summit that's going to be happening next month in February that's going to draw from the whole East Coast, where there'll be other members coming down and realty representatives from Georgia, North and South Carolina, and Tennessee.
Okay. And tell us what that means. There's going to be a Southeast Summit.
So it's all new to me. This is the first time we're doing it. And basically it's going to be held on a Saturday. Half the day, the morning is going to be kind of dedicated to single family. Education and properties are going to be presented from those states that I mentioned. And then the afternoon will be multifamily. And we will have a mentor from each single family and multifamily to provide some education.
So our staff here at Lifestyles is sending people in to organize this. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Because we've had a lot of interest from our Northeast and Jacksonville group about help with real estate, locating real estate for purchasing and for investment. But there's also, a lot of activity happening in Tennessee right now. Georgia has been, and now the Carolinas opening up. So we're hoping some of our investors will feel more comfortable to, invest where it makes sense, not necessarily where they live.
It's interesting to me, having been living in Texas most of my life. I've lived in, St. Louis, but when I was a kid, so it meant nothing to me where I was at. Lived in Wisconsin when I was high school, and nobody goes anywhere in Wisconsin. It's just one giant snowball. but when I'm in Texas, it's strange to me because I can't wrap my arms around the East Coast. I've never been to the East Coast. And what's interesting to me is that going from state to state to state, as you rattle off these state names, that's like going from Houston to Dallas to San Antonio to Austin. It's not any further than going to another city in Texas. Am I right about that?
Yes, Texas is enormous.
So when you draw, if you just go up the East Coast, go north from, you go Florida, what would be right above Florida?
Georgia,
then what's right above Georgia? I'm talking about the coast. South Carolina, okay. Then North Carolina, is there such a place? Is there a place called North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay, so you go South Carolina, North Carolina. How far up the East Coast do you go before you run into another ambassador?
Oh, Georgia has several ambassadors.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in South Florida here, so it's a pretty long state, but I'm excited about that Southeast Summit. I signed up for it. That seems like a big deal. It's all the way up in Jacksonville, and I'm all the way at the bottom in the Keys, but I don't want to miss that event because, again, like Lisa said, a lot of activity in Tennessee and Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina, and we recently had a Lifestyles Realty person come down from North Carolina to one of our meetups and to talk about that. So very excited about it.
So Where do you have your meetups at, Josh?
Well, we meet in Miami in a central location right off the turnpike because we have, again, it's kind of a widespread area. Some people drive down from West Palm Beach, from Boca, Miami, Doral, and I'm all the way down in the Keys. So eventually I'll have people down here because if people want to come to the Keys, and we'll have a meeting down here. But so I'm the only one that lives down here. It's a little far. So we meet kind of central in Doral, Florida, on a monthly second Tuesday night of the month, and everybody, it's kind of a central location right off the turnpike. So whether you're coming north or south or east or west, you can get there fairly easily.
I know Carlos set this all up, guys. He wanted to get you guys going here because he said the Florida's really starting to take off. Can you give us any idea how many people there are that are coming to these meetings in Florida?
Well, in the South Florida, on our monthly meetup, we average probably 10 and 20. So we're a smaller group, but we've had a combined event with the Tampa ambassador in Fort Myers, which is kind of halfway between us and Miami and them in Tampa. And we had over 50 people there. So it's a bigger group, but just on the regular monthly, around 15 to 20 show up. But when we had that combined event, it was a real success. We have a couple of members that come to our monthly meetup that own property in Fort Myers. So we got to tour their properties and see it, and it was a great event.
That sounds great. Tell us how much that means to people locally to be able to have other members to network with.
Well, for me, I started in Texas. I started at the mothership. I'm from Houston and had seen Lifestyles in all its glory when I was there. And so when I moved here to the Keys to kind of retire and enjoy all the real estate has everything that you taught me, and actually living the lifestyle, I want to stay connected. And so it's a great way for people that find Lifestyles either through the radio program or from a friend or a referral or however they come to it. If they're in a state that doesn't have an office, it's a great way to network, to stay connected, and feel like you're, a part of it, because it's, so much goes on in Houston, and we try to replicate that, stay tied into it, stay to the pulse of everything Lifestyles has going on. So it's a great way to do that.
It's interesting as you speak. I have to tell you that like the top 5 people on my staff don't even live in Houston anymore. They live all over the country. It's amazing that of all the companies that COVID almost destroyed, our company, it actually made it stronger because we don't have any centralization like that of our people. So it was really easy for us just to go online and move everybody around and get stuff done. Josh, when you do this, one of the things, I got an email that I'm going to share later on this show, but the guy was talking about the camaraderie ship. And what does that networking really mean? Because, like you said, you got to see it in real live action in Houston. Then you went out there so you knew what should happen. What does it really mean to be able to network with people? Can you give us some idea how important that is?
Well, it really, really helps if someone's out of state or hasn't been to an expo or seen an event. It can still be kind of mystical or kind of not real to them. So that sense of belief and confidence is the main thing. People hear you on the radio and they want to do it. They want to believe, and everything's there. I mean, the online courses, everything that you've built is there. Someone doesn't have to have a network. I mean, you could theoretically never come to a meeting, never come to an office, and still get all the education that you need and buy a ton of properties. It could be done, I guess. It's possible. But you really need that physical interaction and that networking and just the belief level when you're sitting at a table or at an event with someone that, sitting across from you that has, 25 properties or whatever it may be, a 50-unit apartment complex. It really helps the belief level. It helps the confidence. You can see it, feel it, touch it. I'm a kick the tires kind of guy. That's why I never got into stocks or anything like that. But I could drive by my houses. I could kick the bricks. I could see it, feel it, touch it, and you get that same, that same feeling at an event. You're there with other people have done it. So that's the missing link to me.
Lisa, how about you? What do you think makes these ambassador programs so appealing to people?
Yeah, so Jacksonville is kind of a newer, I think, area. So our group has about 50 to 60 people, but on the regular, same as Josh, maybe 10 to 20 average per month. But it is very much, it's like a support group. I feel, people come in on the regular and they want to just, like you said, keep up that belief of, you can do this. And just general questions. We have a whole kind of spectrum of seasoned leads to just new people that are, checking it out, or FFP. So it's just very helpful to have in the area, because we don't have a lot going on here as far as lifestyles, support. So these ambassadorships throughout the state are very important.
So I have a fly-on-the-wall question for you guys. You may not want to answer this for me, but even in Houston, where I'm right here with, I say my will, hey, Dell's over right there in the other side of the room. We have people that try to come up with ideas that are completely opposite of what we teach. Do you guys ever have that in these meetings where somebody comes in and goes, well, I know I've heard him on the radio and he says this, but yeah, I'm going to do it my way, and I do it completely different. Do you still have people doing that?
I don't see it often. Occasionally, especially like if you have a newer person that's just started, listening or has done some the workshop online. Somebody very new, but very, very quickly the more seasoned members will politely shut it down and just say, listen, we're not. That's not what we're about, and it's it's very amicable.
We call those people the back of the book people. You know what I mean by that. Whenever I do a seminar, we always start at the beginning. Go to the back of the book. Okay, there's nothing on that page. Write this in there. I will not do what Dell said to do. And every one of the guys that do the seminar do that piece, because it's so true. People want to hear what they want to hear, not what they really need to hear, and to get it done. And so we have that happen. The other thing I wanted to talk about, I think we'll have to pick up on the next segment, though, because we're running out of time in this segment. But I'm going to tell you what it is so you can think about it. I find when I try to put together networks of people, and I always come up with this conversation that we'll come back to, which is chicken or the egg. Which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? And you say, well, people go, why don't you put an office there? And I say, why don't you put some people there, right? If there's people, we'll open an office. If there's no people, there's no need for an office. So we have to go find the people. So we're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, I'm going to talk about, have you guys figured out that those 10 core people are what draw all the other people in? Because it really does take that core to make things happen. We'll be right back with the Florida Ambassadors and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
Lifestyles Unlimited Success Stories.
If you got laid off tomorrow, what would you do? Would you have to be working at McDonald's or wait to try and find another job with the downsizing the economy? Kept on coming to meetings, even with David Fisher online and stuff like that, but still we just we need to make the jump.
So we kept praying for time to get this job done, to be able to find the properties. How do we find the properties? How do you find the time? And God answered our prayers, and he got downsized from his corporate job. This house was a dog, and through the rehab, I think we turned it into a little pony.
You bought the house for $73,000?
Correct.
And your appraised value actually is $144,000. You put in $45,000 worth of work, so that leaves you a net equity of $11,000 with a return on capital gain of 70%. The cash flow is $458 a month for a cash-on-cash return rate of 35%.
In-person and online learning dates at lukstudy.com.
You're hearing the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Want more life-changing knowledge? Access our podcast and listen on demand at lifestylesunlimited.com under the radio tab. Now your host, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Today I have the ambassadors from Florida on with me, and we're discussing how these ambassador programs work with people in Florida. And also I've got you, I just want to let you know that right now the marketplace has turned around from being an almost impossible place to get a decent deal in the last 12 to 18 months to being a buyer's market again, where we're able to and are seeing lots of good deals. So it's time for you to get started if you've been thinking about it. I've got an email here from a guy who's been thinking about it for 8 years. I mean, come on, it's time. You got to get going here. And to get to one of these events, all you have to do is go to a web page that's set up for me to give a discount, because normally the membership's $740 for 1 year. We're giving away right now $297 for 2 years. So you need to go to Del Help Me Now. That's D-E-L. That's how you spell my name, D-E-L. DelHelpMeNow.com. And you can sign up there. You can pick from all different types of places, locations to sign up for. I'll give you just a couple. We've got like Houston, February 3rd and 4th is the 2-day. Dallas is February 17th and 18th. San Antonio is February 24th and 25th. Seattle, Washington's 24th and 25th. Pretty much what we do is every month we try to go to a different state where we have people. So, we don't go places where there's nobody at. And that brings us back to the discussion of, how do you get people together? And guys, I wanted to see if you'd figured this out yet, but I read a book a long time ago called The Tipping Point, and it's about organizations and it's about groups of people and how they stick together and so forth. And one of the points that they make is that there are different types of people. And the two types that really stick out to me when it comes to creating a group of people, which is what we're talking about here, that are willing to give something to the group. And really, when you think about it, when you go to one of these meetings, you're going there because there's a lot for you to gain from it, but there's also a lot that everybody else gains from you. So it is really a giving event. Everybody going there is giving something. They're giving at least their time. But the other two things that people are doing here, guys, and see if you pick this up in your group, if you know who they are, is that one type of person is called a connector. And this very radio show today is here because Carlos Neto, which is one of the biggest connectors I've ever seen, he's such the connector that he said, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in Florida. You need to get something going. I said, okay, just tell me who's doing it, and I'll set him up. And he went to all the work and set it all up and everything. He gets nothing out of that, other than he lives in Florida, so I guess he wants more networking to go on in Florida. But he also lives in Houston, so he gets to touch. Just like Josh said, when you have a house in Houston and a house in Florida, you go down there and you party with the people in Florida. You come back to Houston and do some business, right? Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on, and look forward to seeing you at this summit, the Southeast Summit, which is what date is that again now?
That will be held on Saturday, February 17th.
Okay.
And we have a networking dinner the night before, but that is for some challenge and preferred members only, and there are limited spots. But I do still have some open.
Okay, very good. Well, to do that, then they contact who?
They would contact me, and my information is on the calendar on the portal. I could also provide my email on air.
Let's not do it live here. You'll have 600 people call you. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming on. I really appreciate it. Today, to finish up the segment here, this last segment of today's show, I want to talk about an email that I just received today. And it's from a gentleman that is in the military, has been in the military his whole life. And thank you for your service. But it's really sad to see that he's done very, very well. So sad's not the right word for it, but it's a little perplexing to see that he's done so well. He went out and bought a bunch of houses when he started, when he was younger. He's held on to them for a long time. They're worth a lot of money. He's got a lot of money in his 401k because I guess being in military and being wherever you're deployed, you don't spend your money. You don't have any cost of living, I would assume. And you really don't have any time to go out and spend your money or create hobbies or whatever. And so between him being deployed and being busy, doing what he does to protect our country, to, pay his bills, he's got over $1 million saved up. And he stopped at like 10 houses. And what I'm trying to get out here is that I see so many people that have a level of success that is just accepted. Now, I also talk a lot about people with life quiet desperation, not the same animal, not the same person. I talk a lot about people that hate their job, not the same person. This guy didn't have nothing in the voice of the email felt like he didn't like what he was doing or did. Was happy with his life. But to know that because you don't have the education necessary to understand how finances work, to think about a person who has $1 million, which in this day and age, it'll earn you 5% on a savings account, which is $50,000 a year, to know that you could have been earning on a basis compounded over the years, instead of 3 to 5%, you could be earning 10 to 15, 20% per year. When you add up the 5 different ways you make money with real estate, you add them all together, and I guess I should do a show on that. But when you add them all together, you're making, on average, as much as 50% return on your money. Now, that's if you do it right, and that's if you don't make any bonehead mistakes, which I see people do all the time. But he only did 10 houses and then gave up because he got stuck on a simple concept. And that was Fannie Mae would only allow you to have 10 Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loans. Well, the interesting part about that is that that's what everybody believes. And that's what many, many mortgage people and or banks will tell you. But the reality is that doesn't stop anybody at Lifestyles who knows what they're doing from buying more houses. I had over 100 houses. It's one of those things that when you run into the average educated banker, they just say, I'm sorry, you just can't do it. They won't let you do it because they can't think outside of the box. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple simple ways. First of all, you can take those 10 houses you have and you can move them into another entity where they're not in your name. And when Fannie Mae goes to check, do you have any other Fannie Mae mortgages? You don't, because they're not in your name. They're now in this other entity's name, right? Simple stuff that I've seen attorneys do for people that just turned it around. Other situation is that you can use non-Fannie Mae financing, which in the past would never be as good. That's why we don't buy stuff into entities on purpose. It's because you don't get the really nice Fannie Mae long-term financing, fixed financing. But we can go to banks and get comparable financing. And if you understand how the bank financing works, it can be as effective as Fannie Mae for a period as long as 10 to 15-year financing. And no one should hold a piece of real estate for 10 to 15 years without refinancing it anyway and pulling the money out. And that's where this guy also has talked about. He's let these houses create massive equity in them. So he's the rate of return when you let a house collect equity goes down. I prove it in the seminar every time. I say, look at a house I bought. 10 years later, when I bought it was 132% return. 10 years later, it was 9. So what happens? Because you got equity. Before you leverage this thing, you don't have any equity and you have massive rate of return on a small amount of money. Now you have a rate of return on a large amount of money, which is not as profitable. And so he has made his real estate not as profitable. And now he's got this $1 million in the 401k and he's thinking, okay, I want to get out here and do some multifamily stuff, which is absolutely what he should be doing with that much money. I mean, I could retire him. Besides the fact that he's got a pension, probably, or will have it if he hasn't already retired. But you think about whatever his pension is going to be, and then you add on, a 10 to 20% rate of return on $1 million, right? You're talking about $100,000, $200,000 a year. And that's tax-free income if it's done correctly. So the sad part, if we go back to the word sad, is that although this guy is really in a very good financial position in life, he could be in a much, much better financial position in life if he had just taken the time to come learn. So now I'm going to ask you, Vince, let's keep going, man. Get in here, sign up. You say, well, I've been thinking about it forever. Don't think about it anymore. If you're out there and you've got some money to invest, you need to get in here and at least learn what we're doing so that you can make the decision. I'm not going to break your arm to have you invest. We're just going to show you what we do. And then you're going to make that decision yourself. But you at least need to know that. So I want you to go to DellHelpMeNow.com. DellHelpMeNow.com and sign up for 2 years of membership for $297 instead of 1 year for $740. When you get in here, I'd like to meet you. The rest of you out there, remember this. We don't do it for the money. We do it for the lifestyle. Have a wonderful day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley radio show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.